So guys, many of you know my daily car is the new M3 Touring. I love it. I've done 5,000 miles in it, but the first 100 yards in this M3 CS, and you as the driver are put on notice that this is a different ball game altogether. And it's not like it's the 10% power bump that the CS gets or the increase in speed. No, it's just the feeling through the steering wheel. The way the wheels seem to be more connected to the road, the general feel of the suspension. It just feels so much more M. It feels like this is an M on top of an M. But then when you read the spec sheet, nothing really gives away what could have done that. There only seem to be small differences. So what we're going to do first, we're going to stop off and we're going to analyse what are these little changes that M have done versus the standard M3 to create such a large effect in the end. Now gamers, I've got something epic from today's sponsor, who is War Thunder. This is a multiplayer action game on the PC, PlayStation, and the Xbox. War Thunder is a symphony of ground, naval, and aerial battles spanning over a century. Battles are mind-blowing with detailed locations, realistic sound, and unique damage systems. From puncturing fuel tanks to immobilizing tanks, the game covers from the 20th century till the present day. You can upgrade your vehicles with modules like smoke grenades, dynamic armor, etc. Experience modern warfare with recon drones, nuclear strikes, and the recent air superiority. This update introduces legendary vehicles like the T-90M, Su-27, Abrams Tusk II, Gripen, and the F-15 Eagle. Plus, brace yourself for the all-new Volcano Valley app, inspired by Kamchatka, adding an explosive twist to air battles in between volcanoes. Now experience War Thunder yourself using my link in the description below. New players and those returning after half a year get exclusive bonuses as well. For example, rentals of the P-40E1 aircraft and the M4 tank for a week. Unique skins, Eagle of Valor, Decorator, 100,000 Silver Lions, 3 premium vehicles, and a week of a premium account as well. So do hurry up and get it. The American vehicle bonus season will end soon. Huge thanks to War Thunder and to you guys for supporting our regular sponsors. Now, back to the episode. So guys, some of you may be thinking that the M3 CS is going to be pretty similar to the M4 CSL, but actually the basis for the two of these cars is quite different. It's just a small change, but it's a significant one. Our M4 CS was based on the rear-wheel drive version of the M4 Competition, whereas our M3 CS is actually based on the XDrive M3 Competition. So it's an all-wheel drive basis, which I actually like a lot because it marries even more to the brilliant super saloon, the best super saloon, which is the M5 CS. Now to highlight what's changed in the CS, first let's talk about what it shares with the standard M3 Competition XDrive. So, first of all, we still have the wide body. So it's completely unique, apart from the doors and the boot lid, to the standard 3 Series. Got wide front arches, wide rear arches, 4 Series lights. It looks amazing, and of course the CS has some unique bits, but we'll get onto that in a minute. Then the engine, which is the star of the show, the S58 inline 6 3-litre twin turbo engine, 3D printed, closed deck construction, forged pistons, all of that great stuff. It's such a responsive engine, revving all the way up to 7,250 RPM. Brilliant. That links to the 8-speed ZF gearbox. Then we have the adaptive M suspension with electronically adaptive dampers. We have a whole host of stiffening done with trapezoidal plates. We've got struts at the back and at the front. We've got a equal length exhaust pipe system from BMW M as well. So loads and loads changed from your standard 3 Series. Our CS then, of course, builds upon this. First, let's go back to the engine, where the boost pressure has increased in our turbos to 2.1 bar now. This gives us around 40 brake horsepower more than the competition, so we're pushing out 550 brake horsepower now, but the same Newton meters of torque at 650, and we'll talk about the 0 to 60 in a minute. In addition to that, with the engine, our engine mounts are now even stiffer, so the spring rate is the torque and the Newton meters of that has gone up, and it allows for a stiffer connection between the engine and the body, which means a more responsive engine, better control of that main weight of the drivetrain within there. Then of course we have a uniquely constructed strut that goes in our engine bay. As you can see here, it's a high precision strut brace. Now of course that helps with weight saving due to its construction and general rigidity in the suspension. Of course the suspension itself has completely unique tuning and kinematics for the CS. Remember, modern cars can differ wildly depending on how they are tuned with the software. I can't stress that enough. But we have actual hardware changes in the suspension as well. So the camber settings are different. We've got different electronic dampers. We have new anti-roll bars. We've got new helper springs in here as well. All of this with new tuning. Our rear differential has a different oil management, so different oil cooling, and a revised rear differential as well. So that's going to help with the character of this car. In addition to that, we have revised steering. The integrated braking system is also revised. And finally, we have the titanium silencer in the exhaust system, which saves around about 4 kg of weight. In terms of weight saving, not a lot going on here, okay? We do have the bonnet, which of course is carbon fiber like the M4 CSL, but where the M4 CSL saved around about 100 kg of weight, this car only saves around about 20 because all it changes is the bonnet. On the M4 CSL, the thing that made one of the biggest differences was actually removing the rear seats and having a fully carbon fiber boot, which made big differences, and of course the buckets, which this car doesn't really benefit from. Now, where your standard M3 Competition weighs 1730 and the Xdrive is 50 kg more at 1780, this weighs 1765. So weight saving, not really the name of the game, which is fine. This is competition sport, not competition sport lightweight. But it just gives you an idea of what's going on. The changes here aren't about losing weight. They're about everything else that they've tuned under the skin that we just discussed, okay? So all in all, in terms of performance, that leaves us with 550 brake horsepower, 650 Newton meters, and a 0 to 60 of 3.4 seconds, which is actually 0.4 quicker than our M4 CSL. So of course that Xdrive helping massively. We will see how the character of the car changes when we drive it versus that car as well. Now, there are going to be more CS cars, okay? We've seen spy shots of a wagon version of this car, which should basically be identical in terms of the internals, perhaps a little bit heavier as the wagons always are, but should basically look exactly the same. That's going to be a hell of a car. I can't even begin to imagine just how desirable that car is going to be when we see it, and I can't wait. But beyond that, there's a really special one coming, which of course is the M2 CS. We don't seem to be having a competition coming in this generation, at least not that I can see, but we are going straight to CS, and it's got all the typical CS signs of the raised rear boot spoiler, the front splitter, the wheels, etc., etc. And because of how much we love the standard M2, I can't even imagine how amazing that's going to be. So lots of CS story to tell, but this is the one that I'm really excited about because it's got some huge shoes to fill with both, the M2 CS of old, which was just amazing, one of the best cars I've ever owned, and then its true kind of predecessor, which is the M5 CS, which is, I think, universally rightly recognized as the greatest super saloon ever. This is following in those, very, very big footsteps. Huge shoes to fill for the M3 CS. And I think it's got a shot. I really, really do. Now, just before we drive off, I want to show you a few of the changes inside the M3 CS because you actually don't lose a lot of practicality like you do in the M4 CSL. So let's check that out and then we will continue our drive and see just how exciting this car is. So guys, a quick note on design, and I can also point out some of the lightweight bits and the unique things about the M3 CS should you think by the end of this video that it's worth upgrading over the standard car. Most of the changes are up front and they're very, very obvious, okay? And one of those first things is actually the lights. So these are the yellow tinted motorsport inspired lights that everybody seems to be modding on their cars these days, but they of course originated with the CS cars, being a nod to M's motorsport heritage. They're really nice, and I like the way that they make the CSs stand out. The other thing that is very, very obvious from the off is the incredible carbon fiber bonnet. This is of course shared with the M4 CSL. Especially as you come around to this particular angle, you can see how it kind of mirrors our front grille here. And either you're going to like it or you're going to hate it, depending on whether you like the grille. Now, I also want to show you what this bonnet looks like underneath. How cool is that? This is a fully carbon fiber reinforced plastic bonnet. It contributes to around about 1.5 kgs worth of weight saving for the CS, which again, it's not a huge amount. And as I said, the boot on the M4 CSL saved more. But it looks bloody cool, doesn't it? I love this. I think it's a super cool thing to let the CS stand out. And then of course we have the cross brace that we mentioned earlier, the high precision one sitting in between our suspension brackets and that beautiful, beautiful 3-litre inline six. Then the other bit that keeps getting modded by everybody is the CSL front splitter. Again, something I only ever want to see on a CSL. And of course this helps with aerodynamics, downforce, etc. And then finally the lighter weight CSL grille, which actually is lighter weight if you see the original one in its packaging. It's stripped back, it's got this Y-shaped thing, the M3 CS logo in there, and the red lipstick detail. I think it looks good. Then we come around to the side. The side view is probably the best view, right? You really appreciate then the staggered setup of the 19-20-inch wheels. Speaking of the wheels are gorgeous. Look at these satin bronze, absolutely stunning. Little M logo in there, and then behind that we've got the full carbon ceramic brakes, which of course save weight as well, which is very useful. But yeah, stunning looking wheels. And another part of weight saving is the carbon fiber roof, which is great. Swinging around to the rear though, it becomes a little bit less interesting for the CS, because it basically just looks like a normal M3. Apart from, we have of course the boot lid spoiler, which is fine, but I would have liked to have seen like a different treatment for the lights on the rear, like we got on the M4 CS on the past, and indeed on the M4 CSL. Yes, we have a titanium silencer, but they basically look identical to the normal M3. So yeah, that's the unique bits of the exterior design, finished in frozen white. Now, let's head inside and show you the little bits in the interior. So guys, in our M3 CS interior, it's actually very, very similar to our standard M3. And this is by no means a bad thing. You get your nice welcome screen, as you always do in your BMW cars. I love that the digital spec of the car is exactly the same spec as the real spec of the car. Little things like that I really appreciate. There were some comments saying that individual colours aren't reflected, but you know, it's fine. For 99% of us who aren't going to have individual colours, they've at least gone to that effort. The main difference in here is the centre console, which is exactly like the one in the M4 CSL. What does that mean? That means it's all lightweight, carbon fibre, no cup holders, for God's sake. What are us coffee lovers going to do with just this? This is, you know, it's nothing, you just got a USB-C in there. And I've popped my RBR press bag with the RBR key tag, which you can buy on the merch store, along with the exhaust t-shirt. Shameless plug, because exhaust on or else, channel motto, remember it. The centre console is really the main centrepiece of the interior for the CS. That and the lovely steering wheel, which is trimmed in Alcantara with the nice thick red 12 o'clock marker. I like it. It's not too thick, it's just right. It feels substantial, and they give you some nice feedback when you're driving as well. Apart from that, that's basically it. The stitching is a bit different, but your carbon bucket seats basically remain the same, albeit with the CS logo lighted in there, which is not a bad thing. I like them, they're good seats. The best thing is that the rear is just a normal 3-seat rear bench. You haven't lost your middle seat like the M5 CS. You haven't lost the whole bench like the M4 CSL. Like you can see, I've got my car seat in there for my son as well, so I'm happy it's a bit more of a daily. Though you do lose some things in terms of dailiness, like 360-degree camera, you know, your driving assistance, all of those kind of things, kind of a bit stripped back in here, which kills a bit of that dailiness. However, I think just enough, because this is still a very, very special car. One thing I'll have a moan about, although I love BMW's new operating system, and I love the fact that the car is digitally the same spec, I wish they gave the CS its own unique driving screen, or something unique to the CS digitally within here as well. I think that would have been a really nice touch, and it's probably not that difficult for them to do, but alas, we don't have that. In terms of the car, coming back to the exhaust, it sounds good when you start it up, to be fair. Let's put it into M2 mode here. Nice deep growl. Kind of reminds me of my modified exhaust in my M3 Touring. No rev limiter as well. It's a good sounding car, and it drives even better than it sounds. Let's check out the M3 CS. So guys, like I said at the start, even when you're in the standard mode and you drive those first 100 yards with the CS, if you're used to the normal M3, you will immediately feel a difference. You'll feel a difference through the steering wheel, you'll feel a difference to the way that the wheels are interacting with the road. There is just an immediate, this is a different car alert. And now that we've understood the components that they've changed, etc., to make this a bit more dynamic, you can begin to understand why that is immediately, even in the normal modes. And we'll talk about the normal mode and what that's like a bit later. First, we're going to crank it into M1. M1, if you're curious, everything is into Sport, which is our mid-level setting. So dynamic, this car. It's so quick. It is simply amazing to me, because you drive the normal M3 and you're like, there's no way that you can make this car feel even sportier. It already feels like a 911 with the body of a Saloon. I mean, it is a little bit let down by the gearbox, but otherwise, you know, it's hard to see how a Saloon could get any sportier. And then you jump into the CS and the exhaust is snarlier and the suspension is, while not hard, even more dynamic. And then this car's ability to change direction is not unlike the superpower of the M5 CS. So we're going to get into all of that in terms of dynamics. First of all, I have heard the whispers of this car's ability to do a quick launch control on the interwebs. I'm really keen to find out how true that is. So we're going to first start with a launch and see what this manages to do 0 to 60. Let's see what the M3 CS does. Preparing launch active. Bit of wheel slip. So much traction. Oh my goodness. 2.98 seconds. That is quick. That is incredibly fast. And I want to say that is probably the quickest M car that we have ever tested. In fact, you want to know something funny? The 680 horsepower C63 4-cylinder, I think managed a time of like 0.1 quicker than that if it was lucky, where this has only got 550 brake horsepower and it's so much lighter. Man, AMG, this car shows you up completely. And not even that, this actually basically matches the AMG GT launch control that we did not that long ago. So ridiculously fast for a 4-seat, 5-door saloon car in basically the entry-level series of 3 Series. It's insane. Hopping into M2 mode, do I feel the difference in speed versus the normal M3? I don't think so. I've always said the normal M3, it feels too fast for the road already. It feels ridiculously quick, that car. And this feels much of the same. I don't feel like I've got a massive tune suddenly. Where power and speed give you greater benefit in the CS product line is the car's ability to carry that power and speed into and out of a corner. You found that with the M5 CS, and you will find that with this M3 CS as well. Like I said, it's simply otherworldly. It's freezing out here today. It's like almost 0 degrees. Luckily our tyres are nice and warm, but I can carry so much speed into these corners. And the amount of grip on offer coming out and power and speed is insane. It really, really reminds me, it just feels like a small M5 CS. And what greater compliment could you give this car than that? Because that is the king of super saloons, I think, still. Where this is kind of a stage below, and this is purely subjective, is it hasn't got that lovely engine. The V8 just made things even more exciting in that car. But like I said, that's subjective. M cars have always been better known for their 6 cylinders, really, and this is a great engine. It might not sound the best. The CS does increase the sound a little bit. You get these nice little burbles and growls out of it, which is nice versus the normal car. But as an engine, you'll be hard pressed to find an engine that's more responsive than this. In terms of the gearbox, it's definitely snappier than the standard car. I wish they would just roll this out onto all of their normal cars. It's not dual clutch, it's still not, but it's much better. I'm actually quite pleased with it, and I would love to see this in an M2, because again, the new M2 was kind of missing out on some of that snappy gearbox magic. But still, massive improvement for CS. Love it. I want to see this on every M car because it doesn't stop it from being comfortable. You know, one thing that's really begun to annoy me about modern cars is adding rear wheel steer to everything. And the M3 is just better without it. It feels so much more natural. You're not rewiring your brain to understand how the car's going to turn in a tighter corner. I just think they're better without it. Yes, if a car's mega long, it makes sense, but this size of car, really? Like, I don't think the C-Class ilk needs it when it has it. It's just makes it a little bit strange, I think, in hindsight. The only thing that's a little bit of a letdown, even in our higher sport plus settings in M2 here, is that the steering it's still not quite as communicative as I'd like it. It's not like the Porsches where it almost feels like a hydraulic setup, and indeed the AMGs are very good at this as well. It's still a little bit wishy-washy, like I don't know quite what the wheels are doing at the time I want them to. Luckily what makes up for this is how the car almost corners flatly, again like something like a 911. It just handles its body incredibly well for a saloon. How much more than the standard M3? Like I said, it feels like an M of an M. It's that much flatter in cornering. You can carry that much more speed into the corner. The nose is that much more willing to point in, thanks to our new camber settings. and the general kinematics that they've done in this special model, I'll be honest with you, other than the steering feel, I cannot see a 911 Turbo getting away from this car with much ease, especially on these type of roads where you or I would use this car daily, you know, in a B road, a canyon road, somewhere where you're really going to unwind and enjoy yourself. This thing is unbelievably dynamic. And what's actually nice is, if you like kind of, you still use these sportier modes, but you calm down, thanks to the titanium silencer, you still get some nice sound coming out the rear. Thanks to the way that the car feels through the steering wheel, it feels that much more special, which is great, and it needs to. It needs to feel more special considering how much more expensive it is. The other great thing is that even if we leave it in Sport Plus and we just drive normally, right, and we calm down the gearbox a little bit, in terms of suspension and daily livability, I love this fact about modern cars, that they just don't get any worse for you or your passengers. Yes, you're definitely aware that you're in a sportier car, but it never judges you. You know, your boobies aren't jiggling around just because you're driving a much more track-focused car. It's not like that anymore. These modern adaptive suspension systems are so good at giving you breadth of ability that you will happily daily this like you would a standard M3. And I can't wait to see what the M3 Touring CS, if that does happen, what that's like, because that's going to be the ultimate daily. I just cannot imagine a better car, other than the fact that you lose your bloody cup holders, which makes no sense at all, and your armrest. I mean, we all miss the armrest, right? It's silly little things. You don't even save that much weight from this carbon centerpiece. It looks nice and it's very theatrical, but I'd love an option for some kind of cup holder somewhere. And it says a lot for this car that the only thing I can really complain about are the cup holders, to be honest. Otherwise, it's nearly infallible. The price is, of course, pretty ridiculous, right? And that is across the board on all modern cars, and I could do a whole video, which I might do, on the pricing of modern cars. But I think if you wait it out, used market, you will probably pick one up, because I don't think you buy one new anyway, for quite a bit under list, particularly in the coming year. And if you do that, that price of that car is probably going to hold for a good long time, because it is a special car. It is less numbers, and you'll always find someone who's looking for it because it's so good. Calming down completely in the standard mode, it's interesting because our exhaust actually sounds exactly like the normal M3. You lose those pops and burbles. The suspension gets really quite close to that car as well. Family love the car. The only thing I miss is stuff like driving assistance, 360 camera, you know, I'll again say the cup holders and stuff. Apart from that, it feels like a standard M3. You've got so much tech in here. It's such a great mix, so much breadth of ability in the CS now. It's an unbelievable car, and I will never doubt BMW M. I think they're just so good at throwing out product after product that is better than the last one. The M2 proved it, M5 CS proved it, this car proves it. Are we really going to doubt them when that new M5 comes? I think they know what they're doing, guys. As far as this car goes, it has no rival. It has no rival in the bracket below, not in the same bracket, not in the bracket above. It is unstoppable. Because no one really wants to make cars like this anymore. BMW M are the ones who are gunning still for the kind of cars we love. Dynamic, emotional, ridiculous looking, but the type of cars that simply put a smile on your face, and still proper sleeper cars. They are saloons that are basically sports cars, and I love that. So guys, that was my first full drive of the brand new M3 CS. Simply one of the best super saloons I've ever driven. If you've enjoyed this episode of RBR, please, as always, do like and subscribe to the channel. It's hugely appreciated. And I'll see you guys next time. Remember, exhaust on or else.